Hello, students. Once again, I welcome you all. Presently, we are dealing with Girish Karnad's historical play, Tughlaq. And so far, we completed 12 scenes from this play. And today, in this class, you will learn the last scene, that is scene number 13. As the curtain rises, we could see Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq and the historian Barani. Both are talking to each other. Barani, as I said, some people also call him Bernie, begs the permission of Muhammad bin Tughlaq to leave for his native place, Baran, in order to attend the funeral of his mother. Actually, Barani does not know the real cause of the death of his mother, and Sultan enquires about the reason for the death of his mother. Barani says he is not sure about it. He just got the message that his mother passed away and he is expected to be there at the hometown at the earliest in order to attend the funeral ceremony. Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq is trying to find out the reason why Bernie is leaving. When he asked as to what was the cause of her death, Bernie simply replies that he did not know anything about it. But Muhammad bin Tughlaq looks at Bernie with some suspicion and doubts in mind and tells him that she died in the riots when the royal soldiers butchered everyone in sight. He knows everything that is happening in his sultanate. In reply, Bernie cries at this, but he is displeased with Bernie's because he has lied to him. This is how we come to know about the development of this plot and the way there was an interaction between Muhammad bin Tughlaq and the historian Bernie. He is really eager to go back to his hometown, but until and unless he gets the permission from the Sultan, it is difficult for him to leave the place. When both of them were talking, a soldier comes in running to them and informs that Azam Zehan, the friend of His Holiness Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, has been murdered. His dead body is found lying there in the secret tunnel of the fort, and 2 horsemen were also found over there with a lot of currency with them. They appeared on the scene, not directly, but they were just reported by the soldier. The soldier also reports that the horseman disappeared without being noticed by the watchman. Muhammad bin Tughlaq continuously stares at the soldier, thought for a moment or two, speculates the matter for a while, and orders the soldier that he should keep it as a secret and he should never share this information with anybody else. He also asked the doorman to fetch His Holiness Ghiyasuddin Abbasid at once to his chamber because he is willing to talk to Ghiyasuddin Abbasid in this respect. As you know, the historian Berni is very much there. All these developments were taking place right in front of Berni. But Berni does not understand anything out of it. Muhammad bin Tughlaq promises him to show something really extraordinary which is happening over here. Muhammad bin Tughlaq says that he is going to show him the great fast regarding the Caliph or the descendant of Caliph and the arrival of prayer after 5 years in the Sultanate. He will also show him how the history is made. Then you see, what does Muhammad bin Tughlaq says? I quote, "No, no, no. This is the first public prayer in my kingdom after a silence of 5 years. We are praying because a holy man like Ghiyasuddin Abbasid has come to our land and blessed us. We can't let anything stop that." Tughlaq laughs. "Oh, Berni, Najib should have been here now. He would have loved this fast." See the way the situation was explained by Muhammad bin Tughlaq to Berni. So in the meantime, the doorman has already left. He went outside in order to call Abbasid over there, and Abbasid has arrived now. See the further development in the plot of the play. When Aziz, disguised as Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, enters the chamber of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, where Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Berni both are talking to each other. Muhammad bin Tughlaq first regrets his helplessness and begs pardon to Ghiyasuddin Abbasid for not attending him personally. Muhammad bin Tughlaq also expresses his sorrow for the death of Zehan Azam. Then suddenly, Muhammad bin Tughlaq asks him, who is he? The moment Aziz, who is disguised as Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, is frightened by listening to this particular question by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Anyhow, Aziz, who is disguised as Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, composed himself and trying to answer as questioned by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Aziz is frightened. He now comes to know that he cannot go on fooling everybody, especially Muhammad bin Tughlaq with his masquerades. And he frankly admits that He is not at all Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, but an ordinary dhobi, a common man by name Aziz. Aziz might not have really realized that Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq has a great power of imagination and speculation that he could really make out very easily to find the reality of Aziz. Earlier, Aziz was very sure that he can easily befool Muhammad bin Tughlaq, but now his reality has already been revealed. He is trying to compromise with the situation. He is trying to convince Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He is sure that His Majesty has never appreciated the greatness with pedigree. He has been, according to him, I'm just referring to the stance taken by Aziz, he has been most obedient and devoted servant of the Sultan. He also informs Muhammad bin Tughlaq that he has always tried to prove to the people that Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq is worth for his orders, and whatever Sultan has been doing for the sake of the entire state is really trustworthy and applicable. He also adds on that he has minutely studied all the orders issued by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, whether they are the political stances or the administrative reforms. All these are minutely studied by him, and he has actually followed the instructions in his life as far as the development and the building of the Sultanate is concerned. As I said, he has studied every order, followed every instruction, and considered every measure of the Sultan with the greatest attention. According to Aziz, he is one of the disciples of Sultan, a true disciple in the real sense. He has been trying to explain the Sultan the kind of ideals that he had for the sake of the subject of the Sultanate. And he is also trying to convince him that he has been a kind of person in between to convey the right message to the subject of the state. But as a whole, Aziz has realized that nothing is going to work out. He should face the music now, because Sultan may get angry with him for all these misdeeds and mischiefs. So he has seen with regret how few have understood him and a few misunderstood. Sultan continued to stare at him, listens to Aziz very carefully and keenly. When the Sultan threatens him with death for deceiving him and his people, Aziz uses his wits and presence of mind and begs forgiveness for posing as Abbasid. Actually, Sultan had a doubt right in the very first glance when Aziz in disguise as Ghiyasuddin Abbasid was welcomed by him at the entrance of the Daulatabad fort. But now, the entire picture is all clear to Sultan, and he has come to the reality that this Aziz is in disguise as Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, the descendant of Khalifa. The Sultan has publicly welcomed the sect. And this is very well known to Aziz. Aziz is trying to patch up the mistakes that he has done. Now he is trying to make Muhammad bin Tughlaq realize that he has not welcomed Aziz On the other hand, he has welcomed a saint by name Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, the descendant of Khalifa. He also talks about the commencement of public prayer after the lapsation for 5 years or so. And he also makes Muhammad bin Tughlaq realize that Tughlaq himself has called him as a savior, because the whole state has been going through a bad patch so far. And now there is no other go for Muhammad bin Tughlaq to accept the kind of stand which is taken by Aziz now. Aziz also tells Muhammad bin Tughlaq that he is not a common blackmailer. He always stands by Muhammad bin Tughlaq and appreciated the kind of reforms which were introduced by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He is very much convinced with the strength of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and he has the loyalty for Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Now, in the subsequent description, you will come to know that Aziz himself is giving the account of his own deception to the state and to Muhammad bin Tughlaq also. And parallelly, he is also trying to justify why he did it. Aziz gives an account that he was starving as a dhobi, and there was no other option than cheating the people and the subject and the state. When the Sultan ascended the throne, he declared that he will treat all the people of different religions equally. And that's why, just to test the equality status of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he disguised himself as a Brahmin, that is Vishnu Prasad, and lodged a complaint against the state and won the case in the court of Delhi. He himself disguised as a Brahmin intentionally, just to test the approach adopted by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and he got benefited out of it. When the Sultan introduced copper currency, Aziz accepted that. He got certain temptation and started counterfeiting the copper coins and made huge money out of it. But in the course of time, there was a building competition for counterfeit currency, and ultimately I decided not to proceed with that, and I left the job. I thought like I should do some business, and then I just bought some land there in my village and started doing farming for some time. And whatever reforms were introduced by the Sultanate and all the facilities which were offered to the agriculturists and farmers, I grabbed all the opportunities and made money out of it also. When they discovered that Aziz was a fraudulent, and Aziz ran away from the place and hid himself there in the hills nearby the Daulatabad fort. And he started looting the people. Many people he killed also. And in the course of time, when he came to know that Ghiyasuddin Abbasid is going to come to the fort and the palace, then he thought of taking the advantage of this opportunity. He could caught Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, the real descendant of Khalifa, killed him, disguised himself as the Khalifa, and came to the fort and the palace as Ghiyasuddin Abbasid. And I could create that impression that I am the real Ghiyasuddin Abbasid, the descendant of Khalifa. And this entire account of his deception was carefully heard by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And for your surprise, I would like to tell you that Muhammad bin Tughlaq was dumbstruck. He was astonished, he was surprised at how a common man, a common dhobi, could cheat many officials in his administration. Moreover, he could dare to cheat the Sultan himself. And it was all clear now to Bernie and to Aziz that Sultan is going to punish him severely, and the punishment would not be less than death. Sultan explodes with anger and orders him to hold his tongue, and he calls him a stupid clown and hates him for masquerading as a saint. Sultan was very much angry with him. I quote Muhammad bin Tughlaq here. Let us listen to this dialogue uttered by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Hold your tongue, fool. You dare pass judgment on me? You think your tongue is so light and swift that you can trap me by your stupid clowning? Let us see how well it wags than hanging from the top of a pole. I haven't cared for the bravest and wisest of men. You think I would succumb to you, a dhobi masquerading as a saint? So that shows the anger of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Tughlaq is almost determined now to punish Aziz severely. But you know that Aziz is a very diplomatic person. He knows he could not handle Sultan with any other justification, but very diplomatically he can manage the situation. Aziz stands there cool and calm, obediently listens to the words of Muhammad bin Tughlaq and quietly answers the Sultan. Now I quote Aziz. Aziz says, when it comes to washing any filth, no saint is a match for a dhobi. As soon as Sultan listens to this dialogue uttered by Dhobi Aziz, he suddenly burst into a loud laughter, and there is a slight hysterical tinge in his laughter. He feels outwitted, and Sultan says, checkmate, checkmate. This man is a genius. It was really a surprise for Bernie and Aziz both. Bernie and Aziz, both of them might have thought that Sultan is going to punish Aziz severely and he will be hanged till death. On the other hand, Sultan asks Aziz to suggest what punishment should be given to him. In fact, Sultan himself should decide the punishment for such kind of treachery and deception. Aziz very politely admits that he wants a chance, one more opportunity to show his loyalty to the Sultan. He is ready to die and do anything for the sake of Sultan. Muhammad bin Tughlaq thinks for a moment, ponders the situation, and then Sultan says that the first punishment for him would be to become an officer with the governor of Deccan. Immediately, Sultan issues a letter addressed to Khusro Malik, the governor of Deccan, and asked him to appoint Aziz as an officer in the army. And the next order given to Aziz was, Aziz will go to Arabia and disappear in the way And again, he should never see the Sultan. Aziz, already frightened, but thought that one more life he has got again, and he agrees to do so very politely. Now you see the situation. Bernie is very much over there in the scene. He can't understand anything at all. As soon as he came to know that a Dhobi had cheated the Sultan, he was convinced that the Sultan is going to punish Dhobi Aziz. But it did not happen. On the contrary, the cheater, the man who deceived the state and Sultan, is rewarded by a position in the army. Then very politely, Bernie opposes the idea of rewarding Aziz and says, by all the history I know, I swear he will stab you in the back. This is sheer folly. He is a thief and a murderer, and your majesty knows he won't keep trust. Once he has power in the Deccan army, his ambition will know no barriers. He is bound to find unlimited scope for his villainy there. He is bound to rebel against the Sultan. How can you not see that, Your Majesty? Bernie also suggests a number of tortures for the Dhobi. And according to Bernie, Aziz deserves punishment only and not any reward. But Sultan waves him off by saying, now you see, I quote Sultan, I doubt even a Dhobi could have thought of so many tortures. By this statement, Bernie feels hurt and again seeks the permission to go back home in order to attend the funeral of his mother. As I reported right in the beginning of this scene, he lost his mother. He has received the message from his hometown and he is supposed to go at the earliest in order to attend the funeral ceremony. Muhammad closes his eyes for a while. Once again, Bernie asks his permission to go back to his hometown, and then he says, Muhammad closes his eyes again and appears asleep with his head falling forward on his chest in deep sleep. In between, a servant comes and wraps the Sultan with a shawl. There is a muezzin's call for the prayer, which is heard by all. All got ready for the prayer. Muhammad bin Tughlaq suddenly opens his eyes. He is dazed and frightened, and it appears that he does not understand where he is. He seems lost, and the play ends with this chaotic mental condition of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. As I told you earlier also, Muhammad is called Mad Tughlaq, the king or the emperor, sometimes who sleeps there in the court, in the throne itself. And this particular scene and the entire play comes to an end with the bewildered mind and the confused state of mind of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And this is the end of the play. and end of this particular scene also. So altogether, we have come to an end of this play, which is a historical play written by Girish Karnad about the life of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. More particularly, we focused on the tenure of 5 years from the historical life of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He shifted his capital city from Delhi in 1327 to Daulatabad, and he kept his capital city for almost 5 years over there in Daulatabad. And towards the end of the play, he orders everybody that now all of us will go back to Delhi, and this is the another decision which is creating a confusion in the mind of all. Muhammad bin Tughlaq could not sleep for nights together. He realized that his decision of shifting capital city from Daulatabad is really a big failure. And now he is going to take another decision in 1332 that he is going to return back to the pavilion. That is, he is going to shift his capital city from Daulatabad to Delhi once again. Now we realized that why this man got spiritually demoralized. Maybe thousands have been massacred and murdered by him. Many people died of starvation during the shifting period. All the ideals Muhammad bin Tughlaq had, they were totally butchered in the course of time. None of his ideas was really executed properly. He was a political and administrative failure. Even the trusted friends proved to be treacherous. And whatever adventure he was trying to do, all came to a failure. And that's why this man, that is Muhammad bin Tughlaq, got frustrated with, and ultimately he lost everything. And this is the end of this particular play. And I think we should also conclude with a simple statement over here that the sleep of Muhammad indicates his total failure as an emperor of Delhi Sultanate. So thank you very much for listening to me patiently.